Have you ever thought about just how overpowered the family Madrigal is? Well, I have. I'm Rain Coleman, and this is Carefree Black Nerd B-Sides. So the Madrigal powers, I don't care what you say, I know they come from a candle, but they have to come from the women in the line. Have to be. We know that Peppa and Juliet are the only ones with kids. Bruno does not have any children. I really think that he's the queer black sheep of the family, but that's another story for another day. He doesn't have any kids. Louisa, Isabella, Camilo, Dolores, and Antonio, they all are the Madrigal children. Now, of course, the boys are kids, so they don't have any children themselves yet. Bruno is the only other person who can test or break this theory because Felix and Juliet, her husband, they were married into the family. So again, I know the powers are coming from the candle or maintained by the candle, but I feel like, and I'm willing to die on this hill until we get a second installment that maybe disproves it, but the powers come from the women in the family. I know you got to touch the candle and touch the door and all that, but it comes from the women. So I also wonder if there is, and this is my nerd brain kind of going in overdrive, if there is a secondary mutation that's going on with the Madrigal superpowered folks. Like if you look at Louisa in that first sung number that she had on her own, she has immense strength. That's clear, but she also must have some form of durability, like a Superman style or whatever superpower person, because the way she was flinging them rocks and stuff up and knocking herself in the back, it was perfectly fine. Now, the caveat is, I know this is a cartoon that is not centered around like the regular X-Men, DC fighting and all that. So that, let's be clear, but letting my nerd brain kind of go to town and do whatever it's going to do, I'm sure that she has a secondary mutation. I would also argue that Isabella, though she has this like plant manipulation thing going on, that she also has some levitation or flight abilities, because the way she was swinging around on them vines, just on her own, but especially in that number where her and Mirabelle kind of made up and had a sisterly moment that wasn't arguing. The way that woman was floating, you're not about to tell me that it's simply just the powers, just the vines, just the roses and stuff. Now let's get into the Madrigal Encanto as a horror flick. Like there is an argument to be made. If we simply look at We Don't Talk About Bruno and look at how that musical number played out, it could easily turn into a horror flick. Yeah, it was like miscommunication and people blaming him for stuff that was already going to happen, but like that could easily be a horror. Just Camilo's part, then the townspeople that he told me all my hair would disappear, and look at my head. Your fate is still when your prophecy is read. Yeah, so I definitely could see either a horror musical or just straight thriller horror. Even if ultimately we get the same result that it was like miscommunication, I still could see dark horror for Encanto. So this was my Carefree Black Nerd B-Sides, I think the third installment, so check out the full podcast. It'll be linked in the show notes, and wherever you find your podcast regularly, you'll have that there as well. Check it out. I go into like which X-Men I think would be paired up against the different family members of the Madrigal, the horror. I get into more detail on the topics I've already discussed here, and also with the secondary mutations and the X-Men battle and the horror, and also is Bruno Madrigal the same Bruno, Silencio Bruno from Luca? So again, check out the podcast linked in the show notes and find out. I think, funny enough, I think I would put Dolores up against Quicksilver, because I think he moves fast, yeah, and he can probably, get to her, but I feel like her hearing is so sensitive that her hearing probably moves faster than he can run. So